Have you ever wondered, would I make a better footballer or a better badminton player? Am I a better singer or a better instrumentalist? Why does team leading abilities not come to me naturally? Why do I struggle when it comes to team leading abilities? What profession would I be good at? What are the jobs that I would inherently do very well in? Why do I get overly stressed in tough situations? The minute I'm put in a situation which is a little stressful, I am totally out of control. And I see that certain others handle it so effortlessly. Am I someone who's logical? Or am I a creative person? Why is decision making so tough for me? Why is it that I'm just not able to arrive at that correct answer? I'm always in two minds. All of this is directly related to various intelligences that function within our system. And it will be very interesting for you to know the concept that it works on, which is the multiple intelligence profiling using a science called Dermatoglyphics. And that is what we will be getting into in detail today. If you look at the way most of us behave, you will realize that our behavior is mostly contextual. We respond to the situation around us. And sometimes we have behavior that is developed because we have seen certain elders or certain others who are influential people in the family behave a certain way. However, there is something which is deeply embedded within each one of us, which is our genetic behavior. So if you are able to utilize the best of the genetic behavior that you have and use it to adapt and glow and respond to life, you will come across as somebody who's really effortlessly superior in whatever you do. And this is the essence behind the science called Dermatoglyphics. Dermatoglyphics is the study of the patterns on the fingers. It is basically the study of the fingerprints which are present at the tips of the fingers. These patterns are unique and are heavily linked with one's genetic composition and are closely related to our nervous system that can relay our intrinsic qualities and talents. So if you look at this science, we are dealing with something scientific, at the same time something which is directly connected with our innate and intrinsic qualities and talents. So what therefore is the dermatoglyphics analysis? It is an integration of brain science, medicine, genetics, psychology and behavioral science. And experts who study dermatoglyphics believe that fingerprints, which are called dermatoglyphy, were marks of embryonic nerves which reflect one's genetic potential. Its analysis is based on the formation and the amount of ridges in the fingerprints at the tips of one's fingers. Brain lobes grow simultaneously with the fingerprints. Each finger represents different abilities and each pattern has its own definition. Statistics show that the accuracy rate of dermatoglyphics analysis can be around a whopping 95%. So when we speak about dermatoglyphics, you will be eager to know as to what is it that is, after all, covered in this report about oneself. We start with the first part of this analysis, which is called the personality profile. So the personalities for any individual falls into a scientific terminology which is called DISC, which is DISC. And in the DISC personality profiling, D stands for dominant, I stands for influential, S stands for stable, and C stands for compliant. So a dominant personality is somebody who will be task focused and who will be very, very clear when it comes to his personal achievements. An influential person is someone who would love to be in the spotlight. They are very, very party loving people and they love to be popular. Stables are those people who would like to ensure that everything around them is harmonious as much as possible. And the compliant ones, they are the ones who stick to rules and regulations all the time. So based on the report, you will fall into one or two of these categories in your inter and your intra. That is how you connect with yourself and the way you connect with others, and that will tell you what personality type you are. Moving on, the next part of the report deals with learning modalities. So when we speak about learning modalities, we look at the 3 types of learning, which is called VAK by the scientist Neil D. Fleming. V stands for visual, A stands for auditory, and K stands for kinesthetic. So between the 3 VAK, you will know which is your primary learning modality and which is your secondary and which is your tertiary. And if you are able to use that particular modality for learning, your learning process will be that much more stronger and faster. We have the brain dominance, which is also a part of this report. When we look at the 2 sides of the brain, the left and right hemispheres, the left hemisphere mostly relates to the analytical and logical side of the brain, and the right hemisphere is more the creative and holistic side to the brain. There is also the total score gained, or what is called TSG in short. This speaks about your ability to be a focused learner or to be a multitasker or a very high multidisciplinary learner. This score will clearly give you an understanding whether you need to focus on one topic or one activity at a particular given point in time, or constantly keep shuffling activities so that you are better in a position to stay that much more comfortable and alert. When you go ahead with this entire concept, you will be able to understand the most important part of this report, which is called multiple intelligences profiling. And this is something which is the crux and essence of this entire report. There are 8 intelligences, which is based on Howard Gardner's theory about the multiplicity of intelligences. Depending on the unique score that you have and the ranking that you have on each of these 8 intelligences, you will be able to understand how you are uniquely different and which are the areas that you will be inherently strong when compared to a lot of your other counterparts. So when you're looking at the unique assessment of the 8 distinct intelligences in a person, this is what sets you apart from anyone else. The 8 intelligences are listed in a very nice sequential order, which are interpersonal, you have intrapersonal, there is logical, musical, visual, linguistic, kinesthetic, and naturalist. You will very clearly understand the 8 intelligences. You will very clearly understand how you are distinctly different from anyone else. And finally, you arrive at the 4 quotients by virtue of these 8 intelligences. I know it sounds like a lot when you actually listen to it, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? As a derivative from the intelligences are the 4 quotients. Now, what do you understand by the four quotients? I'm sure all of us are very familiar with the concept of IQ or intelligence quotient, but that was a long time ago. In today's day and age, we have three more quotients which are as important as the intelligence quotient, which are adversity quotient, which is AQ, creativity quotient, which is CQ, and the emotional quotient, which is EQ. So between these four, one is very clearly able to understand the quotients which pertain to an individual. And finally, the last bit of the report, which is to do with the acquiring sensitivities. Through this, one is able to understand four clear parameters regarding an individual. Number one, whether he is self-cognitive. And when you speak about self-cognition, it shows that an individual is totally within themselves in terms of their learning. It is something that they do in terms of ensuring that they can learn whatever they need to observe and understand from the environment around them by their own understanding and learning. The next one is effective, which is an imitative form of learning. So what happens in effectivity is you tend to blindly copy or blindly follow someone you find interesting or informative or attractive for a variety of reasons. You move on to a concept of reverse, and what happens in reverse is it is a very non-traditional approach. Here the individual tends to have a very opposite view to what a common man would ideally have. The thinking and thought pattern would always be the opposite of the usual. And the fourth one is reflective. This is again a very dependent form of acquiring sensitivity, where you tend to look back on your past experiences and try and relate to why something happened a certain way and whether you should do it going forward or not. So based on this, you are able to do what is called the profiling of an individual. Profiling offers a means of measuring a person's preferred behavior. It can help identify core competencies, development needs, and communication styles. So using the concept of dermatoglyphics, what I would like to go ahead and say is that you will be in a position to understand a whole lot of information regarding yourself, bring out your innate strengths, by which we mean strengths that you're born with. And once you know what it is that are your set of core competencies, who can ever stop you from achieving and making great success for yourself? So do try and get a feel of dermatoglyphics, and given an opportunity, get a report done for yourself as well. Thank you and all the best.